Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, whenever you're watching this broadcast. We're trying something different. If you follow the Will and Lawson show any length of time, you know what we do is try different stuff. We use the resources that are available to us to do the best we can for our listeners and sometimes our viewers. We're going to do a video version of the It's a Final show. It's a Final is dedicated to football primarily, and we may make some changes as football season, of course, is winding to a close. But we wanted to catch up with the bowl games. You know what? I'm sure this Christmas you were busy, and with a number of bowl games, almost impossible for you to keep up with unless your team was playing in one. So we're going to get to some of those scores right away. We're going to get to and I'm sure on December 19th, you were all gathered around the TV watching the Royal Purple Las Vegas Bowl, where number 22 ranked Utah beat BYU 35-28, and you stayed in front of the TV to watch Arizona beat New Mexico in the Gildan, New Mexico Bowl 45-37, and then you weren't done with football at that point. You watched the Raycom Media Camellia Bowl, where Appalachian State, remember Appalachian State, the same team that upset Michigan in the Big House a few years ago? Remember that? Appalachian State 31, Ohio 29. And in the Auto Nation Cure Bowl, I'm not sure what that means, but it was San Jose State 27, Georgia State 16. Now, I remember Georgia State because during the NFL strike, they tried everything. I saw putt on TV, the PPA, the Professional Putters Association, on television, and I saw Georgia State play Millsaps, I think, Division III college football. It was like it was being held in a Little League stadium somewhere. But they lost in this bowl game in the Auto Nation Cure Bowl, 27-16 to San Jose State. And it was Louisiana Tech 47, Arkansas State 28 in the RL Carriers New Orleans Bowl. It was USF here in town. USF is just a few minutes away from our studio. And we sort of have adopted USF as my college team, seeing that it's my neighborhood school. But they lost to Western Kentucky 45-35 in the Miami Beach Bowl. Now, what's interesting about that game is that the USF coach, Willie Taggart, was not only the coach of Western Kentucky, bringing them back to prominence, he was a player there and a coach there. So there was a lot of intrigue in that game on how that was going to work out. USF got behind early, but made a push to the end, scoring 14 points in the fourth quarter, but it wasn't enough to overcome the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers 45, the South Florida Bulls 35. And on Tuesday, December 22nd, right before Christmas, I'm sure, again, glued to the television, it was the Merit Boca Raton Bowl, where featured Toledo and Temple. Love the alliteration. Toledo won 32-17. And then it was the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, which has got to be one of my favorite names. It's the Potato Bowl. Come on now. In Idaho, it was the Akron Zips 23 and Utah State 21. And the next day, on Wednesday, December 23rd, it was Boise State 55, Northern Illinois 7 in the San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl. Now the word is poinsettia. It's not poinsettia. It's poinsettia. Look at it carefully. But it was the San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl. Boise State 55, Northern Illinois 7. Boise State goes to 9-4. Now it was in the GoDaddy Bowl. It was Georgia Southern 58 and Bowling Green 27. Now, if you don't remember Georgia Southern is the same team that a couple of years ago went into the swamp and upset the University of Florida. Georgia Southern actually was when we had Division II schools, had won the Division II championship a number of times and have played FBS schools or Division I schools and always given them a hard time. It's a great program there at Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern in the GoDaddy Bowl, 58-27 over Bowling Green. And on Thursday, on Christmas Eve, it was Western Michigan 45, Middle Tennessee 31 in the Popeyes Bahamas Bowl. That's what you want. You want to go to the Bahamas and have Popeyes chicken. Gotta love that. And who doesn't love Popeyes chicken? And in the Hawaii Bowl, it was San Diego State 42 and Cincinnati. I guess they just weren't used to the nice weather. 7 in the Hawaii Bowl. And on the day after Christmas, it was here in St. Petersburg, not far from where we're sitting right now. It was Marshall, the Thundering Herd from Marshall, 16, and Connecticut 10. It's a final in the Hyundai Sun Bowl, where there really wasn't much sun. It was mostly snow. It was, Miami, University of Miami, a fish out of water, literally. The Washington State 20, University of Miami, the U 14. You just can't imagine. Think about a team from Miami playing in snow. If there's not more of a fish out of water game in these bowl games, it was that game right there. It's a final. It was the Zaxby's Heart of Dallas Bowl, where Washington was 44-31 over Southern Mississippi. Southern Mississippi, that's where Brett Favre went to school. There you go. Now, I remember Southern Mississippi not fondly, because I remember them coming to Tallahassee and beating my beloved Noles 56-14 or something on Parents Weekend the first year I went to school there. Not much love for Georgia Southern, but so did mind seeing them lose to Washington 44-31 in the Zaxby's Heart of Dallas Bowl. And in overtime, in the New Era Pinstripe Bowl, not sure what that means. However, it was ACC Duke 44, Indiana 41. I'm not sure, and that was in overtime. I'm not sure that was if they had an arena league or it was an arena style game or so, but there definitely wasn't much defense going on. And speaking of not much defense, but it worked out for Frank Beamer. Virginia Tech Hokies 55, the Tulsa 52 in the Camping World Independence Bowl. It was great that Frank went out on a winning note. In his very last game, Virginia Tech finished the season at 7-6, and won the Camping World Independence Bowl 55-22. And in the Foster Farms Bowl, I have no idea. Don't ask. Don't send emails. I don't know. It was Nebraska 37, UCLA 29. And my, how the mighty has fallen. It was Nebraska finishing their season at 6-7. They were one of those teams that were asked to play in a bowl game because they ran out of teams with 6 wins. Because you remember, that was the deal. In order to be bowl eligible, you had to have at least 6 wins. Nebraska did not, but Nebraska travels well, and so does UCLA. UCLA finished the season at 8-5. It seems, yes, at 8-5, losing to Nebraska in the Foster Farms Bowl 37-29. And there are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of bowl games, and there are still some yet to come. On Tuesday, it is California and Air Force at the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Also on Tuesday afternoon is North Carolina and Baylor at the Russell Athletic Bowl. It is Nevada and Colorado State at 7:30 Tuesday at the Nova Home Loans Arizona Bowl, whatever that is. And then at 9 o'clock is the Avocare V100 Texas Bowl. Don't know who they are either. Featuring 20th ranked LSU versus Texas Tech. And on Wednesday, December 30th, we have Auburn and Memphis in the Birmingham Bowl. That's an early game. That's a noon start. And at 3:30, it is North Carolina State and Mississippi State in the Belk Bowl. And I guess Belk, like the clothing store. I'm just guessing. It is at 7 o'clock. It will be Texas A&M and Louisville at the Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl. Wow, that's a mouthful, isn't it? And at 10:30 p.m., I mean, if you want to just be sitting around the TV all day, it's going to be 25th ranked USC versus Wisconsin in the National Funding Holiday Bowl. And on New Year's Eve, a full slate of games. We started at noon with 9th ranked Florida State versus 18th ranked Houston in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl in Atlanta. I have been to the Peach Bowl before they had, that was back in the early days where we went from Tallahassee in Conestoga wagons. One of the coldest places I've ever been in my life is Atlanta, Georgia. We had a rehearsal, and it was like 13 below zero. It was awful. But that game's taking place in Atlanta at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Is 9th ranked Florida State versus 18th ranked Houston. First time those teams have ever tangled. It ought to be great. Ought to be great to watch Dalvin Cook for Florida State, who has 211 carries for 1,600 over 1,600 yards, 1,658 yards, and 18 touchdowns. One of the most explosive players in college football that did not get an invite to the Heisman Awards. But it'll be good to see Dalvin do well against Houston, and I think he will. At 4 o'clock, it'll be number 1 Clemson versus number 4 Oklahoma in the Capital One Orange Bowl, which is part of the College Football Playoff semifinals. And right after that game, we're going to see number 2 ranked Alabama versus number 3 ranked Michigan State in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl, which is also a part of the College Football Playoff semifinals. Now, I know what you're asking me. You're asking me, why did they do that? Why don't they have the number 1 team playing later? Well, I guess because they're playing in the Orange Bowl, they didn't want to have that last game finish at midnight. Well, I remember back in the day, I'm sure you do, because some of you are as old as I am, you remember the Orange Bowl always being the last game of New Year's of the New Year's days, and it started at 8 o'clock, and it didn't get over till midnight, and everybody lived. And I didn't have to wear a helmet. And I took my fat butt to work the next day. Tired, but I went. And on Friday, January 1st, it is more irrelevant bowls, because those two are the only relevant bowls when we start talking about national championship games. Only one of those 4 teams, Clemson, Alabama, Michigan State, or Oklahoma, have a shot at a national championship. And remember that. I want to get to that later after we're done letting you know about the rest of the bowl schedule. And because a lot of people are really upset with why are there so many freaking bowls. I'll tell you why here in a little bit. On January 1st, New Year's Day, the Outback Bowl here in Tampa, Florida will feature 23rd ranked Tennessee and 13th ranked Northwestern. Those teams have never tangled. It should be a good time. The line is Tennessee by 8. The over and under is 47.5. Should be a great game. The weather is going to be fantastic. About 74 degrees. There may be some scattered showers, but it should be great weather. And at 1 o'clock in Orlando, and the Citrus Bowl is going to be the Buffalo Wild Wings Citrus Bowl, featuring 19th ranked Florida and 14th ranked Michigan. Should be a great game. SEC versus Big Ten in Orlando. Michigan is favored by 4. The over-under is 39. It looks to be sort of a defensive struggle because Florida's offense obviously has struggled. They need a quarterback. Obviously, the quarterback they have now is simply not cutting it. So the smart guys in Vegas are thinking maybe not. Maybe they won't be able to score many points. They certainly didn't finish up the season very well, losing to Florida State and then losing in the SEC championship game to Alabama. At 1 o'clock on New Year's Day, it is the Battle Frog Fiesta Bowl. I wish I was making that up, but I'm not. The Battle Frog Fiesta Bowl, featuring 7th ranked Ohio State and 8th ranked Notre Dame. That's going to be held at the University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Ohio State is favored by 6.5. The over-under is 57. Should be a pretty good game. Looking forward to Ezekiel Elliott cutting loose Ezekiel Elliott had 262 carries for 1,672 yards and 19 touchdowns. Looking for Ezekiel Elliott to cut loose against the Golden Domers in the Battle Frog Fiesta Bowl. At 5 o'clock on New Year's Day, it'll be number 5 ranked Iowa versus number 6 ranked Stanford in the Rose Bowl, in the granddaddy of them all. The Rose Bowl presented by Northwestern Mutual. Of course, that's in Pasadena. It should be sunny and 67, perfect football weather. The line is Stanford by 6, if you were wondering, some of you people who are, and this is just for entertainment purposes. The over-under right now is 53.5. Now, all these lines I'm giving you now are going to change as the games get closer and closer. So don't call Vegas tonight. Don't put down any cash tonight, because all this is going to change, and you won't get guaranteed any of this. At 8:30 on New Year's Day, if you're still sitting around the TV, you have a chance to watch number 12th ranked Ole Miss versus number 16th ranked Oklahoma State, and the All-State Sugar Bowl in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans. Mississippi State is favored by a touchdown. The over/under is 67.5. Should be a high-scoring game. Good to see Chad Kelly of Mississippi. Over the season, Chad Kelly was 277 for 400 out of 425. They threw the ball and continue to throw the ball for 3,740 yards and 27 touchdowns. Wow, 27 touchdowns. So this should be quite a show as to see if the Oklahoma State defense can keep up with Chad Kelly. Again, Ole Miss and Oklahoma State in the All-State Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day evening. Let's see, on the 2nd, you see, remember the old days where on the first college football was done, you had a national champion? Now, some guys in a room who didn't watch all the games got to decide. However, you had one, and it was over. However, it continues to leak right now. On Saturday, January 2nd, it'll be Georgia versus Penn State in the Tax Slayer Bowl in Jacksonville, Florida. The line is Georgia 6.5. Over under is 42.5. Is it going to be a good game? Hard to say. The weather will be nice. I'm pretty sure the weather will be nice, even in Jacksonville. And at 3:20 in the afternoon, it'll be Arkansas, who was in a bunch of really good games this year in the SEC, at 7-5 versus Kansas State at 6-6 in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. And at 6:45, what a weird start, it's going to be TCU, number 11th ranked TCU at 10-2 versus number 15th ranked Oregon, who is 9-3 in the Valero Alamo Bowl in San Antonio, Texas. TCU is favored by 1, which means this is a pick'em game. The over and under is 78.5. Should be a wild one. Two high-powered offenses. Trevone Boykin in that game has thrown this season has thrown for 3,575 yards and 31 touchdowns. Should be crazy. If you like Arena League scoring, this is the game to watch. I think this is probably, other than the Florida State game, this is one I'm probably going to watch. But later on that evening, on the 2nd, it'll be West Virginia and Arizona State. 7-5 West Virginia, 6-6 Arizona State in the Motel 6 Cactus Bowl, held on Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona. West Virginia is favored by 1. The over/under is 64. Not much defense being played there either. And it'll all be over on Monday, January 11th, as the winners of the college football playoff games between Alabama, Michigan State, Oklahoma State. I have such little respect for all that right now. It's Oklahoma and Clemson, Michigan State, and Alabama. The winners of those two games will meet for the College Football Playoff National Championship, presented by AT&T, brought to you by Dr. Pepper, on Monday, January 11th at 11 p.m. at the University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. There you go. So it should be a wild end of the season. Now, you're wondering, And a lot of people are, why are there so many freaking bowl games? Well, I'll tell you. Now that the college football playoff only really involves 4 teams, there's a lot of really good teams that are taking this opportunity to do things like have extra practices because you can practice a little longer. And now getting on television at even some of these more obscure bowls, if you are a youngster in high school, maybe one of those teams that are in your area that are now playing in a bowl game, you can see on television. You get a chance to advertise. You get a chance to tell your recruits, "Hey, we go to bowl games. We're at that level." You take that opportunity. You take the opportunity. You have extra practices. You get to advertise your team on television. You take that opportunity. So yes, there were 40 plus bowl games this year, and that seems like a lot. And it doesn't seem like much of a reward if you have a team that has a losing record in a bowl game that's lost 6 games or 7 games and only won 5. But it's an opportunity for your program to get some notoriety. So that's why they do it. Now, could you fix that? Yes. How do you fix all this? Well, my way of fixing it is that you pare down Division I football, and then you have conference winners play conference winners. And all of this is how it's decided on the field. There are no polls. There's no committee meeting. We can all see it play out on the field. There's no strength of schedule that matters. It's just a hat on a hat, and let's go, which makes sense to me. That's how it ought to be, but it isn't. This is a system that we're going to have for a while. My advice to you is cheer for your team and enjoy the games. It's not going to be any different anytime soon. Now, I want to tell you that also that this broadcast is brought to you by our friends at New Homes Tampa Bay. New Homes Tampa Bay. If you're looking for a new home, a new construction home, and you just don't know where to start because it can be a pretty daunting task. You go and you visit the model homes. My wife and I did this when we were first married, and we were just thinking about, well, at some point we're going to buy a house. We're not going to live in this apartment forever. At some point we're going to buy a house. So we did what everybody else does. You spend a weekend sort of dream building, and you go to these model homes, and you walk around and you see all the stuff, the carpet, the hardwood floors, the great appliances, all the stuff, and all the different elevations, and it's overwhelming. You don't even know where to begin. And do you trust the salespeople? Well, you should, but something in you tells you that they're just trying to sell me this house. And you wish, golly, I wish I could go to somebody who knew what to do and what to look at. Well, you know what? That company exists now. Those people exist now in form of newhomestampabay.com. My friend Gary has built a plan for you using property process management to make sure that you are buying your new home, not being sold a new home. And that he's got inspectors that make sure that the home that you're choosing and all the things that you've been sold in the sales presentation are actually taking place in your house. So you know what? Do me a favor. Do yourself a favor. Save yourself thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars. I mean, if we're talking about the price of a new home being over $150,000, we're talking about this is the biggest investment you're ever going to make. You want as much help as you can get. No reason to be proud. No reason to be arrogant. Get help. Call him at 813-770-3452. That's it. 9452, excuse me. Or you can go, better yet, go to the website, www.newhomestpa.com. www.newhomestpa.com and set up a time to talk to Gary about buying a new construction home. New construction homes that haven't been built yet, or maybe some inventory homes. They've got access to hundreds of models throughout the Tampa Bay area, hundreds of model homes. He can direct you to something that you like. And you know what? If you tell him, Willie told me on the It's a Final show, you know what you get to walk away with? You get to walk away with $1,000 gift card from Home Depot or IKEA or Lowe's at closing. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. All right, in a little bit we'll be back with the NFL wrap up, and then we'll talk about the playoff picture in the NFL. Thanks ever so much for joining me this evening or this morning or whenever you're watching this on It's a Final. My name is Willie Lawson. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, how you doing? My name's Gary. I work with New Homes Tampa Bay. We're out here for a new home buyer today, looking at one of their new construction homes. I just wanted to walk you guys through what we look at for you when you purchase a new home. So we're just going to jump right in. Come on, follow me inside. The first thing, and what you're looking at here, you're looking at a home that is in what's called the installation process. They just finished framing on this home. What they're going to be doing now is, if you look all the way around, actually on this side, you start to see this blue stuff on the wall. That's the insulation. That's what actually keeps the heat and cold inside your home. If you look up, you see something that's called a radiant barrier. Now, what we're looking at in the home at this process, we've already inspected the foundation for you. We've made sure that they did their job correctly when they actually laid the foundation. But at this point, what we're looking at is we're looking more at the materials that they're using. When you buy a new home, they're going to sell you on things that come with the home that make it more energy efficient. What we're doing out here today is we're making sure that they're actually using those materials. So each material has a certain energy rating that's associated with it, what we do is we're going to go back and we're going to fact check that this is the same material that they sold you on when you bought your home in the first place. We're going to make sure that these materials have the same energy ratings as the ones that they tell you on their website and in the model home. Now, like I said, this home is just about done with framing, right? So what we're doing now is we're going to make sure that their framing is as it should be. For instance, if you follow me over here, there's something that I don't really like. If you look and you see how this frame on this side of the wall up here doesn't really line up with the frame of the roof. Now that's not all uncommon, and it's not unsafe either, because this is not a load-bearing wall. It doesn't need to be, and it's not designed to be. However, that doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look pretty to me. I don't like it. I wouldn't have liked it if the construction crew built my home like that. I'm not going to let them do that to you. So what I'm doing is I'm going through this. I'm looking at stuff like this. I'm just going to make sure that everything looks as it's supposed to. Also, if you look around here, the guts of the home are still exposed. You got electrical wires coming through. This is not actually the electrical wire. This is all of the hardware for the air handler right here. And what we're doing is we're making sure that as everything's being installed, that things are installed in a way that's safe. They're pretty good at always doing that, but people make mistakes. We don't want them to make a mistake with your home. So we're going through and making sure they're not doing that for you. At this point in the home, we're looking at what you would call a final plumbing inspection. This is really the last time that you're going to see the guts of your home. So what we're doing is we're looking for every single piece of plumbing. We're also verifying that all the options that you expected when you signed your contract, maybe you expected a wet bar and a bonus room or something like that. We're going to make sure that the plumbing is set up for it before they close all this up. And because it happens every once in a while where they don't necessarily prepare for the things that you requested and they have to go back. We just want to make sure, and if that happens, your closing date's going to be extended. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. We make sure that they're actually installing all the things that they tell you about. This is where the kitchen's going to be, obviously. Something that concerns me right here is this foundation is not entirely dry. If you lay tile over this, this can cause issues, a lot of issues later. And this is a kitchen, so likely it's going to be tile. So there are ways to actually dry this out. We're going to make sure that they actually do this before they close this up. So those are just some of the things that we look for. I'm a new home advisor with the company. I have a construction background, but I'm not the actual one who will actually physically go through the home. Someone more qualified than me goes through the home. That's our construction supervisor. They follow you. They follow your home as it's being built through the process. We're actually waiting for them right now. And but just to give you guys a quick background on how we do things here at New Homes Tampa Bay, part of educate, equip, and empower is this process that I just showed you right now. We want to make sure that you buy your brand new home in the safest manner possible, and this is how we do it for you. See you guys.
And it was the Oakland Raiders doing something special in overtime with a field goal from Sebastian Janikowski, Florida State, to take the win in possibly their last game, at least for a while, in Oakland. We've seen this picture before. And all roads lead to L.A., apparently. It was the Oakland Raiders 23 and the San Diego Chargers 20. It was the Washington Redskins 38 and the Philadelphia Eagles 24 in a pretty bizarre game. There was really madness there at the end of the first half when Kirk Cousins, for some strange reason, instead of spiking the football, decided to take a knee and then ran the clock out when Washington had a chance to score at the end of the half, knowing full well they would have the ball at the beginning of the second half. Beside all the weirdness and Jay Gruden scratching his head, it was the Washington Redskins 38, the Philadelphia Eagles 24. The 72 Dolphins are tipping back the champagne. Well, at least for the few that are still alive, because it was Atlanta. It was the Falcons who have struggled here in recent weeks, knocking off the once undefeated, going for an undefeated regular season Carolina Panthers 20-13 in Atlanta this afternoon. That's Atlanta 20, the no longer undefeated Carolina Panthers 13. Just when you can count on the Jets to fold like a house of cards, what do? They man up. They man up, and for some unknown reason, the Jets come up with a way to beat the playoff-bound New England Patriots 26-20 this afternoon. That's the Jets 26, the New England Patriots 20. The Ravens fully expected to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, even if few others gave them a chance of pulling off the upset. In a season of defeats and injuries, the Ravens added a memorable chapter to this contentious rivalry with a 20-17 victory today. The Ravens, who are 5-10, had lost 3 straight, the last 2 by a combined 69-20 score. In this one, however, they turned back the Steelers, who at 9-6, who were riding a 3-game winning streak and striving for a playoff berth. That was the Baltimore Ravens 20 and the Pittsburgh Steelers 17. After making a habit of giving Russell Wilson fits in St. Louis, the Rams ended a decade-long drought in the Pacific Northwest. For the first time since the 2004 playoffs, the Rams left Seattle on Sunday as winners. We've come up here the last 3 years and come up short. I just felt like the last 3 years in the fourth quarter, we always slip up and let them win. I'm glad we got the W, said St. Louis cornerback Tremaine Johnson. It was indeed the first win in over a decade for the St. Louis Cardinals. They beat the Seattle Seahawks 23-17. I did say Cardinals. It was Carson Palmer looking like he was headed for Canton instead of Aaron Rodgers today. It was Carson Palmer being 18 of 27 for 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick as they pound their guests, the Green Bay Packers, 38-8. This was an interesting game. Both teams had a running back throw for a completion today. Both Scott Townsend and Drew Stanton were 1 of 1, both for 4 yards. So I guess in that sense it was a draw. But on the scoreboard, it was Arizona Cardinals, who are looking great as they're going into the playoffs. 38, Green Bay Packers 8. Even more frustration for the Cleveland Browns. Possibly the most snake-bit franchise in the history of the NFL. They're trying to improve their record today, but instead go down to the Kansas City Chiefs 17-13. Johnny Manziel, the much heralded Johnny Manziel, was 13 of 32 for 136 yards and an interception today for a quarterback rating of 35.3. However, he led all rushers for Cleveland to make things worse. He had 11 carries for 108 yards. The longest was 34 yards. It's obvious that you can't win in the NFL if your quarterback is your leading rusher. It was the Kansas City Chiefs 17 and the Cleveland Browns 13. Wow, what a game and what a season. After starting the season against Tampa Bay, scoring 42 points in a rout of Tampa Bay at home in the opening weeks, Tennessee has struggled. It was Houston Texans 34, Tennessee Titans 6. Brandon Weeden, after being cut from the Dallas Cowboys after a frankly lackluster performance in replacing Tony Romo, scored his first rushing touchdown ever and threw for a couple of more as the Texans moved closer to the AF South title with a 34-6 victory over the hapless Tennessee Titans today. After such a promising start for both of these teams, it was the Indianapolis Colts without Andrew Luck 18 and the Miami Dolphins with Ryan Tannehill 12. Matt Hasselbeck was 8 of 15 today for 99 yards, and he was relieved by Charlie Whitehurst, 9 of 14 for 78 yards. Two quarterbacks who were 17 of 29 for 168 yards. It's a shame. The Colts are 7 and 8, and the Dolphins are out of it at 5 and 10. Both teams had such promise at the beginning and had such good starts. It's too bad that they're both going to end up irrelevant at the end of the season. Again, it was the Colts 18, the Dolphins 12. Who could have ever imagined this score just a couple of seasons ago? It was the Detroit Lions 37, the San Francisco 49ers 17. Detroit rolled San Francisco today, 37-17. I'm sure this doesn't make up for a Super Bowl loss, but I'm sure the Dallas Cowboys are wondering why they cut Brandon Weeden today, who scored 3 touchdowns, running for 1 and throwing for 2 more, as they had Kellen Moore under center, as Tony Romo is on IR and will not be back for the rest of the season. But it's okay. Dallas is 4-11 and looking forward to OTAs for next season. It was the Buffalo Bills with Tyrod Taylor, who are 7 and 8, 16, and the Dallas Cowboys 6. It's not like they're better than they were last year, but the Buccaneers still are having growing pains. They have a quarterback who threw for almost 300 yards today and managed still to lose. Untimely penalties, untimely turnovers. Youth cost the Bucs the game today. It was the Chicago Bears, who are at 6-9, 26, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are also at 6-9. Just a couple of weeks ago, thinking they had a playoff shot. Right now, they are also preparing for OTAs of next year, but things are a lot more promising in Tampa Bay. That's the Bears 26, the Buccaneers 21. And the Jacksonville Jaguars complete the trifecta of frustration for professional football teams in the state of Florida by losing to the New Orleans Saints today, 38-27. Okay, well, we're back. And thank you for watching all of that. We appreciate that because it's really important that you understand what we're all about here. And now that you've seen the scores from Week 16, we're going to give you an idea of what's going on in the playoffs. Now, the NFC is pretty much settled. It's going to be the Panthers, the Cardinals, the Packers. I mean, these are all teams, and the Redskins, who all clinched a division. Let's see. The Panthers and the Cardinals have clinched a first round bye, and will get home field advantage. The Panthers are 14-1. Of course, the Cardinals at 13-2 in the NFC. They've got a conference record of 10-1 and 10-1 respectively. And then we have the Packers, who have clinched a playoff berth. We're not quite sure where they're going to be, because there's still a chance the Vikings, who are 10-5, can end up winning the division. And the Seahawks have clinched a playoff berth. We're just not sure where they're going to be. But the playoff teams from the NFC are going to be the Carolina Panthers, the Arizona Cardinals, the Green Bay Packers, the Washington Redskins, and the Minnesota Vikings, and the Seattle Seahawks. If you saw what Minnesota did to Washington, oh my goodness! And right now the Redskins are at 8-7, so they're not going to have a winning record going into the playoffs. The NFC East is abysmal. Let's let's move over to the AFC. It is the Patriots who have clinched the first round bye at 12-3. They have a conference record of a division record of 4-1, a conference record of 9-2. They have clinched a first round bye, and they haven't gotten quite home field advantage for the playoffs yet, but that looks like it might happen. The Bengals have clinched a playoff berth. You know what? And the Bengals sort of you wondered if they were going to be able, when they started this season, were they were going to be able to make the trip, and it looks like they're going to. They have clinched a playoff berth, or we're not quite sure where they're going to land. And the other team that have clinched a wild card spot are the Kansas City Chiefs at 12-5, 4-1 in their division, 9-2 in their conference. It is the Broncos at 10-4 in the West, and then the Texans at 8-7. We'll see if they end up. They're still on the hunt, and the Steelers, even after losing this weekend, and the Colts are still in the hunt. So the picture in the AFC is a lot more muddy, than it is in the NFC. So it should be good to the last drop. Should be good to the last drop. Let's see here. The AFC clinched. New England's clinched and gets the first round bye. Cincinnati is clinched. They won the AFC North. Kansas City gets a playoff berth, like we said. Cincinnati. They played Denver on Monday. Cincinnati clinched the AFC North division title with Pittsburgh lost to Baltimore. Cincinnati clinches a first round bye with one Cincinnati win or tie. Okay, there'll be no ties. Denver. So Denver Broncos playing Cincinnati on Monday. Denver can clinch a playoff spot with first a Denver win or a Pittsburgh loss or tie, or if Denver ties and Pittsburgh loses. Houston Texans clinches the AFC South division with a Houston win, and Houston clinches the strength of because the strength of victory tiebreaker over Indianapolis. So Houston has their fate in their own hands. All you have to do is win. All you got to do is win. Kansas City clinched a playoff berth spot with a win over Cleveland, and Pittsburgh lost to Baltimore, so they're good. Again, everybody in the NFC is good. Now, Arizona is still on the outside. Arizona clinched the first round bye with a win over the Packers, and Minnesota clinched a playoff spot with a shellacking over the Giants. So it's going to be interesting times. All right, listen. I hope you enjoyed our video presentation. We did the best we could under the circumstances. We are looking to improve as the year goes on. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, take care of yourself. My name is Will Lawson, and this is It's a Final. And we are done.